Hi friends, it's week 39 of our 52-week series, memorizing 52 Bible verses in 52 weeks. And I feel like the year's kind of flying by. We're already on week 39. And I went through my notebook that I had planned all these verses that I personally wanted myself and my family, my two boys, to focus on this year. And I kind of planned all of that out before I invited the rest of the world to kind of join me on this journey. And so there are some verses that I really did want to memorize. I really want my boys to memorize that might just seem, they're not necessarily the typical inspirational Bible verse, if that makes sense. And that's what this week is. Also, so this week the verse is 1 Timothy. I'll go ahead and just read it so you'll know the context in the verse. It's 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Now that might seem kind of like a silly verse to memorize. First of all, I don't think a lot of people like it, right? It's kind of a gut punch. And I think a couple of different things about this. So let's put it all into context first, okay? Paul wrote 1 Timothy to Timothy. And he's writing about the church. He's writing about the church in Ephesus, okay? Now, this church was wealthy. They were believers. So he's kind of just writing about things that he saw. So I've made a few notes. I just want to kind of go over the goal of the theme maybe of 1 Timothy. It's kind of the gospel leads to practical, visible change in believers' lives. Paul is not sugarcoating things here, right? It's not sugarcoated. It's kind of a gut punch on purpose because he wants the gut punch or the truth, like the solid truth, to be spoken to these people. They're already believers. He's not addressing a group of people who are not believers, okay? So let's put this into context a little bit because it is a little bit of a gut punch, right? Think about, worse than a non-believer. There's a lot of different elements to this verse, and I feel like a lot of people do specifically, they'll take verses out of the Bible, out of context, sometimes even unknowingly, right? And they'll kind of mold it to like prove their point or whatever. That's not my goal here. My goal is that my children learn that as men who will be leaders of their own household one day, they are to be providers. And as leaders in the church, they are to provide for the church first. And a lot of people don't really like the way that feels, right? But I feel like this is so important because I think sometimes as Christians, we miss the mark. How many people in ministry do you know do more work outside of their home while their home is crumbling to pieces? Providing, when I talk about providing, I'm not just meaning monetary, right? Which I do think that plays a huge role. If God has gifted you the ability to work, then I feel like you're called to work and provide for your family. That doesn't mean that there should be shame upon someone who does not have the ability to work. That's not what this verse is in reference to at all. It's actually really referencing taking care of widows, right? A lot of people, I think, especially in this wealthy area, were letting widows in their own family be taken care of by the church, when really they could have taken responsibility and the church's resources could have been used in a better way. I really think that's what this is referring to. But I think there's so many things we can take away from this verse. When it says, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever, I feel like that translates to me as a Christian, as someone who has faith, you know right from wrong. And you know what you've been called to do. You have a relationship with the Lord. And when you do something that you know you are not supposed to do, that's worse than an unbeliever. There's a lot of unbelievers that maybe don't know right from wrong, right? It's like a little kid doing something and they haven't learned yet that it's a wrong thing to do. You can't really fault them for it, right? They haven't learned. They're learning. That's part of being a kid. As an unbeliever, when you're learning and growing in your faith or you're first exposed, there's a lot of things you didn't know that now you know. And as a believer, when you know better and you specifically do not do what you know to be right, he's calling people out, saying you're worse than an unbeliever because you know better. And I think that's true. There are a lot of times that my kids will disappoint me because they do something and I know they know better. There are consequences to behavior when you do something and you know better. And the consequences are not the same whenever you didn't know and you're learning, right? And so I kind of feel like, is it kind of a harsh gut punch? Yes, it is. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason why Paul is writing this stuff to Timothy. So he is talking to Timothy about the issues in the church in Ephesus. And a lot of the problems were that people were promoting theories over solid truth. I don't know what you want to read into that about today's world, but people were promoting these theories and these thoughts about biblical teachings, but like ignoring like solid truth. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear, oh, I feel like I feel like this is going to cause so many problems and I'm going to get ripped apart for this, but that's okay because this is what I truly believe in my heart to be true. You know, the Lord, we read in scripture over and over where the Lord talks about work. I mean, this goes back, you know, to Adam and Eve. Okay. Like we have to work. Our work, we can ask the Lord to bless the work of our hands and he will help us produce fruit. We know that that's an amazing, important thing. And there are people out there right now with the ability to work. And there's plenty of work out there. If you want a job right now, you can get a job. The service industry right now is desperate for people to work, okay? But why? When you can sit at home and collect a check from the government. I don't believe that the Lord is going to bless the fruit of that labor because you didn't labor to do anything for it. That's not saying that there are people out there that don't need to be recipients of those things. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that I do think in this mindset, I want my boys to see and know that something the Lord has called them to do is to be a provider. And being a provider for their family and for a church that someday, like a group of people that they help lead, that they are to provide. They're to provide safety. They are to provide spiritual growth and direction. You know, more, it goes beyond just money and food. There's all the elements of being a healthy, whole Christian, that they are responsible and they know what they need to do. And so, I mean, I hope that they will take care of me whenever I'm older. And I know that the Lord will bless will bless their labor and provide fruit if they are truly living within their calling. Okay, some of the other notes that I wrote down is one of the key themes in 1 Timothy, okay, is that there is no legitimate separation between belief and behavior. See, I think what was happening, and this is my assumption, okay, is that, this church in Ephesus was wealthy. I mean, these people had money. And I think that you can go to church and you can put your money in the collection box and you can say, I'm a Christian, but then your behavior outside of that doesn't really line up and match. And so this gut punch of saying, if you're not taking care of your people and even the people in your own household, you're worse than an unbeliever. And I truly do believe that. If you have the responsibility to take care of your family and provide safety and provide for them financially and provide the emotional support, all the things that you need to do as a leader in your home, and you make the choice to do nothing, you know better. And Paul is calling people out on it. You can't go to church and put your money in the thing and not take care of the people in your own house. That's not right. And the other, another key theme is the importance of protecting the purity of the gospel, which is kind of one of the things that sent me red flags when I was doing this verse, because I thought people are going to think I'm taking this verse out of context, But I feel like it's a really good one for me and my boys to have on their heart. I want them to know that it's what's important. I want them to know when you know what's right, you're expected to do what's right because you know better. And I do want there to be an expectation to provide. And for some people, that might feel weighty, I don't want to put that weight on my kids. I do. I do, because I am raising leaders for the Lord, and that is an expectation that He has. And it might sound hard and it might sound weighty, but my children were born in this time for a reason, and the Lord has a plan for that. And so it's okay sometimes for our kids to feel the weight. It's okay for us to sometimes feel the weight of providing, and that looks different for everyone. And everybody has different gifts and abilities when it comes to doing that. But doing nothing is not okay. So 1 Timothy 5, chapter 5, verse 8, that's our verse for the week. I'll read it one more time. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and if especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Don't be worse than an unbeliever. Do what you know you need to do. Take care of your people. Have a fantastic week. I'm out of quarantine. This is probably one of the longer videos I've made. I hope you did the 2X so you could watch me talk really, really fast. My kids are off for the next 2 weeks, so we have some fun plans as a family together, and so I'm excited about that. I love saying prayers for you, and I do have time mapped out over the next 2 weeks to pray specifically for you, so be sure to email me, ryan@ryankeepsitreal.com, and I would love to cover you in prayer this week, however you need it. Bye, guys.